no turning back. We have our ancestors with us. We're going to continue to dance with them, dreaming them, calling them, being them. We are becoming what we were.
It is part of that Mayan prophecies.
7 triangles of light.
Keep walking. You are the spirit of Unapku. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapku.
People who say that the gods made them from corn. They planned their lives according to the heavens. Well-versed in astronomy, using a sophisticated mathematics, they calculated the movements of the night sky thousands of years into the past and thousands of years into the future. They knew that the universe moved in cycles. Their lives were ruled by the rhythms of the natural world, planting and harvesting, birth and death, just as the great tree of life emerges from the earth.
Always, they're connected. Science and religion.
In dreams, we learn from the Maya gods when to plant and when to harvest, when to set a fire, and when to do the corn ceremony.
What we're digging up, what we're coming up with is part of our history. And the men that lived here are some of the greatest men we've ever had. And it's a fact that we're getting to know more and more and more about the life of these people.
They still maintain their customs. They still maintain their ways of organizing their societies. And it's very exciting to see how much of the ancient Maya way of life is still alive as well.
Because American history does not begin in 1492 with Columbus. It begins in 200 BC with the first Maya king who wrote his name on a stone. What is happening now is the people who made these places, people like Yashpak or Bird Jaguar or Pakal, are getting back their voices. They are becoming real to us and speaking to the people of the 20th century about who built this place and why and what they felt and what they thought about the world. These are not anonymous people anymore.
You are the spirit of Unapku. Keep walking. We the human, we are doing the spirit of Unapku.
Yo. So Instagram, I'm live on Instagram, so you guys could, or anybody who's on Instagram, you can catch us live on YouTube. You can hear the show better and actually get to interact. You get to leave a chat.
Absolutely, man. I want to thank all of our new Instagram followers and most importantly, our subscribers in the last week or so.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone was aware we had a big show not too long ago, man. Immortal Technique was in town, our brother, and man, it was a fucking amazing event, huh, Zero?
That event,
like I had to literally take a vacation out of that because it was so much hard work, though. I'm gonna be honest, there's so much energy put into the event, but I think it was worth it.
Well, when you book a headliner of that caliber, he's not just any headliner. I mean, this brother comes with like a lot of weight.
Yo, he does, huh?
And he can fill a room, and he's super talented, and he's the cool dude.
And now he's one of your brothers, Zero. You know what I'm saying? He came by Manilani Superfood, showed some support.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him at his meet and greet, and I hit him up. I let him know that there's some very powerful foods that people should start researching and using, and I just told him, I go, look, I have a juice bar in East Los Angeles. Should roll through. He's all, here, take down my number, and boom, next thing you know, we're texting each other back and forth, and he comes to the shop and is one of the most humblest, smartest, I mean, this brother's put together well. It's
Right.
not. It's not a surprise that he's a very successful underground hip hop artist.
Right. And you're right, man. It's hard to fill up rooms in Los Angeles, especially solo.
In
right?
Los Angeles, you gotta be like undoubtedly amazing
Yeah.
to fill a room and he's from the East Coast,
Yes.
so that just tells you how much talent. Yeah, but
It was dope that you were one of the handpicked select few to open up for him. XP killed it. Vel killed it. You fucking killed it, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sub One for holding it down too, man. I think that was one of his best performances I've seen yet.
well, I mean, Sub wrote a dope song, and that's why we played it, and it was cool, and the people responded to it, and I mean, I don't think anybody had a bad slot on that night because that room was filled from the moment the doors opened.
Absolutely.
And that just goes to the production company.
Yes.
The production company got the word out, and people came and lined up.
Yep.
Over capacity, because you're not, you're talking about tickets sold, but there's a guest list as well.
There were so many dope guests. Shout out to Poca One. She killed it on the side stage. I saw Cosmic Force there.
Yep.
I saw the homie Hero in there.
Yep. Indigenous Cats.
Indigenous Cats.
I mean, they
right?
really they killed it too.
The homegirl from Buried Under the Blue, rocking the Displacer shirt.
Oh, that's right.
Rightfully so.
That's the show to be at.
Absolutely. And as everyone is aware, we try to reach out to dope indigenous hip hop artists, you know, on this show. We have a very special guest. His name is Cody Coyote. He's gonna explain to us where he's from and what he's about. But I'm telling you, man, he's. I like his videos. They're really well done. Yeah. And he's such a dope artist. But before we get to him, I want to thank all you guys, all the new subscribers, all the new Instagram followers. Thank you. Check out all of our prior episodes. Go onto our website, lanativespodcast.com, purchase a t-shirt, get a hoodie, support. We're about to push Zero's new project. We need to plan like an album release. You know what I'm saying, Zero? Yeah. Like once it drops, we're just going to have like a little intimate album release for a select RSVP.
Well,
so be on the lookout for that invite, guys.
I think the ideas that I have with releasing the music is tying it to a garment and then having it, whoever purchases, because I think I'm going to do it NFT style.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Yeah. Do it super underground. I want to put it up on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Just do it super underground, independent.
Well, it'll be available to everyone, but if you want the exclusive merchandise or want to be a part of that intimate night, that's something different.
Yes.
So, we prepare that. We prepare our audience to be there and whatever location we decide to be at. But I have some new music that I've written. That's almost done. I'm going to release it very soon. We're gonna put up the mixtape.
Yep.
Soon.
That's going to be a good teaser for everyone because that mixtape is super dope. But Zero's right. His new material, man, is by far. It tops anything that you've ever done, bro.
It's because I have to be progressive. I mean, it's hard to not be a trap rapper or not be this
clout chasing rapper,
wordsmith. You know what I mean? Like you got to be like this skillful hip hop artist, and my message is very clear, and I do it in a very poetic way. So that's the testament to my music.
Let's go ahead and bring in Cody Coyote, man.
Cody.
Yo.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Yo, Cody, man. I want to thank you
what up?
for taking this invite, man. We got Zero of El Vuh in the building. We got Cody Coyote in the building. What's going on, brother?
This is huge. I'm just going to say miigwech. Thank you for having me here. And I also want to say that intro is deadly, okay? Like whoever did the production on that, big up, straight,
Oh, thank you. I did it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, word.
I'm not surprised, Zero, that he thinks it's dope, right? You get it a lot, but give us a little bit of quick of a story about that intro right there.
Well, I mean, I when I went into knowledge, I went in deep. I read books, documentaries. I even went as far as sampling like Travel Channel because the Travel Channel would go to like a certain area and talk to elders in the community. And so I got a lot of samples from those, that type of thing. It wasn't like a big documentary that you can refer to because I can't really remember where I picked Humbat's Min from because Humbat's Min is on there. There's a couple elders that are very well known in the community. But it took me about 2 weeks to piece it all together because it's a piece of documentary from each one in different parts. So it was a big jigsaw puzzle. But yeah, man, that's
Paid
the
off.
answer. Yeah, it paid off. It's classic. I
So,
like it.
so Cody, go ahead and tell us where you're from, what you represent. You know, just let's get right into the new project. Go ahead and break it down.
Sure. So I'm just gonna follow some right now. I've been taught to always introduce myself in my language, which is
Yeah.
Anishinaabe.
Oh.
So Ani Bojo, Cody Coyote, Nindishnakaz, Asanio de Nin, Nishnaabe, Aki Nindonji, Ojibwe, Nishnaabe, Nindao, Irish Nindao, Makwa Dodem. And I was just saying, hey, and I go by the name Cody Coyote. My Anishinaabe name is Stoneheart, Asanio De. And I'm coming to you from the unceded, unsurrendered Algonquin territory. That's commonly referred to as Ontario, Canada. And I'm Ojibwe and Anishinaabe on my father's side from Matachewan First Nation, which is in Treaty 9 territory, so-called Northern Ontario, Canada side. And I'm Bear Clan,
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, you got a lot of medicine, brother. And the fact that you could speak your language, that's amazing.
Hey, learning, bro.
Wow.
Learning, and I
The fact
appreciate
that you
that.
did it so confidently and, followed the protocol. Of course, if you know it, you should do it. And you did it very well. So now people have a very good sense of who we're talking to here.
Oh, big much,
And
thank you.
so rightfully so, right?
Yeah. He's a
Because
good
it's so
artist.
called Canada. I'm gonna be honest with you, right?
Sure.
Like we were talking about this off air with Cody, right? Let's break down a little bit of what we talked about, Cody, off air.
Yeah. So-called Canada. Like I will never ever identify as or even American. Like I'm a Anishinaabe, and I'm very, very firm in saying that I'm a Anishinaabe. That's my nation. It's been here long before the idea of both of these settler societies, and we're gonna be here long after, right? And I think that it's, I can't even I saw this awesome sign as soon as the broadcast started, right? Make America Indigenous again, right? Like literally talking about decolonizing these environments that have conditioned people to think that we're no longer here, that they succeeded in erasing us and disregarding us, right?
Right.
That's a little bit, to say the very
Well, I mean,
least,
that's a lot. That's a lot to say because, the struggle has been long, and shout out Richie for Make America Indigenous again. That's a brother.
Shout out to Richie who was actually at the event.
Absolutely. Shout out
know?
Richie. But I mean, I love the fact that, peers, like me and you are just diving into that healing journey, right? Telling that story. I guess our job is to try to be as creative as possible. And that's what I try to do with my music is try to be as progressive as possible. I don't try to fit into a genre or I'm just going to do what I do, and put a lot of intense time into it. I could tell you do that with your music because your videos are fucking great, bro. They're dope. Tell us a little bit about the production and who did it, or did you direct it?
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. One that I absolutely love talking about is Manado Dewagan, right? Which means Ojibwe. And that's my story in a nutshell. And I tell people that. Like I faced some challenges early on in my life and being bullied for having long hair and being one in 6 Indigenous kids in my school. And facing the extremes of that environment, things like racism and certain prejudices that people had in that part of town and where I live, it led me into a pretty rough lifestyle, right? And in that video, you see a little bit of it, you get a glimpse of it, right? And I think I really got thinking, like you're saying, like for me, like I don't want to be uh put into just like one genre. Like I want to just be able to showcase like my being in my art and
Mm-hmm.
let people know like, hey, this is a piece of me. Like, come take a walk in my moccasins
Mm.
and see, what my life's been. I mean, it's brought me this far, and if I had to talk about another video, the way that like is for days, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
The one with the lowriders.
so, yeah, with
Yeah,
the
I was
Lolos,
like,
right?
damn, bro.
Like,
I know how hard it is to coordinate one, but like to get like a row of them, that was dope. I was
bro,
like,
and
damn,
the
this dude.
circle, like I was losing my mind trying to like keep my composure in the middle of that. Why they're all circling around, right? The Res Classics Car Club, big up,
Mm, mm.
like that was just like incredible because even up here, like up north, like I used to roll around in a 1985 Oldsmobile, right? And my brother had like a 72 Cadillac DeVille, and we were just always into classic cars, right? So I wanted to kind of showcase that aspect of for classic cars and lowrider culture as a whole. Hmm.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's dope. Well, I mean, this is the home of it, Whittier Boulevard, where we have our Malinali Superfoods. Every Sunday, you see like at least minimum 50,
Mm.
passing through. And they come from all different parts of, Southern California. It's not just East Los Angeles. It's like sometimes they'll fill up a whole like market parking lot. I've seen it like
Mm-hmm.
that. So, I mean, culture has been it's been here a long time. And that's cool that other natives are taking ownership of it and
Or
putting it into,
embracing
yeah,
it.
exactly.
It's a heavy influence, a lot of the mainstream news media outlets or entertainment outlets use lowriders all the time.
I mean, I was just talking to one of I call him a historian. His name is Ernie. He sets up right
Ooh.
by the by the shop, and he was just talking today about how it started in like the early 50s, because he's been there all his life, and he's about like 65 years old or so, close to. He's older. I don't know how old he is. I hope I'm not dissing him. Anyways, but he was telling me the story of like the beginning times of it, like how dads would give away their cars and the kids would get creative, and how the cops would find them very quickly because their cars were altered. So they would, right away impound their car or give them a ticket. It was just a long history lesson with Ernie. But yeah, culture has always been, and it's cool that other natives are using it now, because I mean, it's we're all family. We all kind of live the same story. So
Mm-hmm.
what's it like in you on the res, or are you in the city, or?
I'm in the city. I'm gonna put that, you know, so my family, we were just here. Like
Mm,
my father the 60 scoop, right? Canada
mm,
60 scoop, and he was forcibly apprehended by the Canadian government, the child welfare system, when he was 6 months old. Um, this is after my grandmother came out of residential school, and just understanding like what's happened to my family directly at the hands of the Canadian government. It's brought me to where I'm at right now. Like speaking up about it, and with me, like I'm 30 years old. Um, it took me 25 years to meet my blood relatives. From then till now, like I'm not a fluent speaker in the language, but like honoring what you said earlier, like making it come to life, right? Like speaking it more, practicing it every single day, trying to learn as that's how I honor them, and
that's
yeah.
that's that's just keeping the spirit alive in your blood, bro. It's like there's
Hmm.
there's no other way to awaken that unknown part of us, right? Because we were displaced. We were taken from a long, long, long tradition of ritual and certain ways of doing things. certain ways of living, certain things that we used to eat. But even if you are taken away from that, there's something inside of you that still lives on, that still wants to seek it, right? And then you find it, and then you just like, wow, I never had it. It seems like I haven't never had this understanding, but it's always been with you. We're just finding the right tools to do it. And so you dive into the studies, and you should be proud of yourself, bro, because that was pretty well done. I mean, I didn't see no. I don't speak that language, but still, it felt, felt heartfelt.
Have you always, incorporated these type of topics, indigenous issues, etc., into your music? Like when you started your rap career, right? Like, but were you aiming for like a mainstream sound, or was it like just off the jump?
So I like, I grew up listening to like groups like Dead Prez, Nas, like KRS-One, like just having like that storytelling component, like looking at things like Public Enemy, like when I heard like Fight the Power, I was like, what is this? Right? And it just like ignited something inside of me when I was like this young person trying to navigate this colonial structure of an environment. And I like and I'm gonna pay homage here, like Gary Davis, Lightfoot, like he really allowed me to understand that there was a place for hip hop, right? And I started to experiment with writing my own stuff, and really got into that political stuff. I was like, hey, like I'm gonna speak up about it, because where I've grown up and where I've lived my whole life, this is quote unquote the capital city of Canada, right, where the parliament stands, but it's also unceded territory. And understanding what that means, like this land was never given up through treaty, it was forcibly taken and occupied, and it's still being occupied, right? And just being on the front lines, showing up for different rallies and immersing myself in that, when I was in high school and after high school, it really like paved the way and helped me like trailblaze in the way that I have, right? Releasing like my first EP, which was Loose. And from then till now, like the more knowledge that I obtain and that I understand, I'm not going to be quiet about what's happened to Indigenous folks, and I'm not going to be silent about the ongoing either, right? Because there's still harm being caused to our communities today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always like to mention this to other Indigenous artists, and I don't say this to be crude or a Debbie Downer, more like just an awareness, right? Because I too was inspired by Public Enemy and KRS-One, and when I was growing up, well, I'm just gonna fit in that lane, and that lane died quick. Once it started hitting mainstream, they were like, "Nuh-uh, this isn't gonna fucking fly." What are you talking about? Fucking Fight the Power, question authority. I mean, that shit was like a blip in music, right? So just when we take on these topics, I think we have to keep in mind that it may never be mainstream. It may never be mainstream. It'll be your decisions business-wise on if it does or not, or whether you become a mainstream artist. Because mainstream artist is different from someone who is like Public Enemy, or, they let these like one group get in, like Rage Against the Machine, right? Very general, not very specific, doesn't have no real ideology behind it, but they have like this undertone of counterculture and rebelliousness, right? And then Public Enemy gets like a couple albums, but they never got to like become Miles Davis in the hip hop industries. You know what I mean? They got cut out and not promoted. Tours died, problems happened, So
And true artists embrace that, like Zero. Like when you write your music, all the music you push, you embrace that, and you saw that coming. Like you're like, yo,
well, I knew
the music that I make is not going to hit mainstream.
It's not. It's just not. We were right there with mainstream artists, and mainstream is a very different definition. There's a very different intention with that type of music. It's to sell products. That's the original intention of music, because people have to do, like, I would advise you to look at this documentary about how radio got started. And it's a PBS documentary on how radio got started. And it was an insurance guy who went and got Hank Williams to sing on his antenna that broadcast on all the radios. And in between Hank Williams singing, he would sell his insurance. You can buy this policy, you can buy that policy, whatever's. But think about that. Nothing really changed from that moment, right? It's now Nikes, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. It's the same thing. It's just different products, right? It evolved, right? And it became a little bit more scarce. And then people started deciding who was going to be there and who wasn't, right? Just like they do presidents and they do all these politicians. They decide who's going to be there and who's going to represent our agenda. So that's what it means to be mainstream. So we got to go into that understanding. And then we also got to think as artists that we're telling the story of genocide. And we're telling the story of genocide against the ruling class who genocided us. So they're not going to go, hey, let's hear that story. Come over here. Let me put you in everybody's ear and let everybody hear what you have to say. Here's the beauty of what we do, though. You can be as great as Bob Marley. And it doesn't fucking matter. They can't suppress truth. They can never suppress truth. So the creativity that we both use should always reflect truth, which is art. Art reflects your interpretation of truth, but it won't be ever mainstream. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Oh, and like I'm completely with it. Like artists, you know, like you kind of get the vibe of who's trying to sound like something that they're not, that kind of thing, right? Where they're trying to like, how am I gonna put that? Like adhere to what the mainstream, you know, sound is at that point in time. You know, like coming back to what I was saying earlier, like I never want to just like be like put into one genre, right? Like you put out your artistry. If you find like a beat that you're rocking with, or you scratch and you like incorporate things like a hand drum or like a water drum, like nobody can touch that. That's like a part of somebody's being, right? Like ancestrally. And like there's going to be no comparison. Like if someone's going to be, you know, making a get down, like I said, like out of a drum or like some shakers and stuff, like that's just so organic in its way, you know.
And the beauty about it too is that we get to be clever about how we present that. In other words, we don't have to go through hurdles or know some great film guy and great editor, because people have been doing great work on their laptop with iMovie. As long as you are communicating the message, like you said, I'm going to use this hand drum, I'm going to use this rattle, because it tells the story of my people, right? Now, just remember as an artist that sometimes that story isn't palatable for people. They don't want to look at that bad side of America. We're all together now, right? Everything's cool, right? Nobody's doing that to you now. And then that's where we get fucked up, because then it's like, we don't have a right to say anything.
But the voices are growing, right, Zero? Like there's a huge indigenous hip hop community just boiling over right now. We got some
and
great
they all
artists.
want to tell the story. And that's what I love about it, because a lot of them do have that public enemy kind of attitude to wanting to tell this story.
Yeah, like we were talking off here, right, Cody? Like the indigenous hip hop scene is growing, right?
Yeah, it's huge. It's starting to become big.
And we're unapologetic. Like every day in my life, I am unapologetically indigenous. I am in people's face about it. If I'm speaking my language and it makes somebody feel uncomfortable, so be it, right? And I remind people, I'm like, if you feel uncomfortable with what I'm sharing or what I'm saying in my music, or if I'm speaking to you at a live show and I make something, you know, like spark inside of you that you feel uncomfortable, I ask them, what are you going to do with that discomfort? Are you going to pretend like, you know, this didn't happen, right? And that we don't exist? Or are you going to do something about it and mobilize? And I think that comes into that conversation that we're having right now, is like people that are watching this, right? Well, am I going to turn this off, or am I going to continue watching and hearing what these folks have to say, right? Like I'm never, ever, ever going to stop, you know, speaking up about what's happened to my family and what I see happening, right now in today's day and age. Because people that are like, oh, like they're like we're all together, we're all here as one, then why aren't we talking about things like equality and exit that there's still communities in so-called Canada, the greatest place to live, how they advertise themselves, that are still fighting for basic human water or being able to raise their children and have supports for their families, right? You guys struck a chord.
It's because, well, but we gotta let's widen the scope though.
Big
I mean,
time.
it's not necessarily like we always go, oh, it's the government, and then this is the brilliance of who these monarch, colonial, white supremacists are. They're monarchs, but they just changed their name. They go from being a king and queen until they piss everybody off. And then they go, fuck the king and fuck the queen. We're now corporations, right? They just changed their name. Because if you go through their lineage, you'll see they all go back to a royal family. So we can't wonder or ask why this is happening. It's happening because they were brutal. They didn't care. They're like, separate them, kill them, get them out of my hair. Just like a monarch or a royal or a king would come on an land, and then his arrogance would be like, this is all mine, and fuck these peasants. And we can't expect, it's just, okay, so we go from monarchs to corporations, to governments, to city councils, to, these are just names they're coming up with, and then when people get pissed off at that name, they just change it. But the same rules apply. We don't give a shit about you. That's the rule. You want to be a part of this clique? You can't give a shit about people. Well, why? Well, because we exploit them, and we exploit the land they live on, and we don't give a shit about them. So we can't expect police brutality to change. It's going to be what it is, unless the police officers themselves have their own meaning and decide we're going to rule in this way. We're not going to take orders from somebody who's rich to say, hey, just go beat those guys up. We need to know facts. We need to know why. We need to know who's dangerous. We need to go in there and just remove the dangerous person. That's the way police officers should act. But they have their own agenda, right? Because they're ruled right now by rich monarchs with gobs and gobs of money. So much money, we can't even fucking fathom that amount of money. Right? To them, it reminds me of this, brother, and I'll let you respond, and you tell me your perspective. But I would watch these, like, I don't know, stay up late, watch these movies, and some of these movies would be about European culture, right? And all it was one ruling person trying to assassinate and get someone else. And that still happens today. That still happens today. These people have so much money, they could say, give Armando $500,000. That ain't shit. I wipe my ass with that. But Armando is like, fuck, dude, I live in the projects. I'm out of there. And then they just created an assassin. Right? Somebody who's willing to take out that person and put his own life on the line for this amount of money. Right? But it's all stemming from a European king, queen, monarch style, in my opinion. This is all my opinion.
Doctrine of discovery.
Right. The doctrine of discovery.
Just going to say that.
It all stems back to that. I'm not being repetitive when I say it, but I'm trying to break colonial perspective. And you do that by understanding truth, by gaining information, digesting it, and coming up with your own sovereign understanding. That's how we were brilliant. We didn't go, oh, yeah, we're going to follow this guy because he knows all the shit. No, they go, oh, wow, he's very wise. He's very wise. Wow, this is the way I see it, though. You know, I took your principles and I added to it. and I subtracted to it. And yeah, I made mistakes. And yeah, sometimes it was better. It's our own perspective, right? When we break colonial perspective and we understand their nature, then it's a lot easier to defeat their systems because you'll start to see the holes in it, right? It's dependent on money, but they inflate the money. So they make the money less valuable. And they can make the value, they can make the money they make the money more valuable and then inflate it. And it's a big game. And we fucking fall for it. We fall for it. What do you think? Sorry, bro. I could get off on a tangent.
This is like the wavelength that I've been on. So I'm like, hey, like finally we get to talk about this, you know, because like there's like prime example. I'm not saying the news outlet, okay, but when the news broke of the Pope visiting, you know,
Let's talk about that. I want to talk about that for sure. I want to
right? Like I get hit up, you know, on a Monday, and said news outlet, you know, asked for a comment, and I get so much stuff. We talked about the doctrine, you know, went into like a really in-depth conversation, but to fit their narrative, we only saw a 5 to 10 second clip of all that, you know, of like a 10-minute conversation, right? So just being like completely, you know, raw and putting it out there, like I strongly feel too that start educating themselves on what this doctrine is first and foremost, because when people have the ideation of, oh, well, I'm from Montreal, or I'm from New York, you know, I'm from Los Angeles. These were all places that after colonialism and colonization, right? I'm from Madajuan, right, where the water meets. That's my home territory. Nobody can erase that, right? And it's really like decolonizing people's mindsets, like we've been saying. Like people find comfort in identifying as or an American, but no, you know, asking these European settlers, where are you from? Where did your ship did they arrive on? Are you English? Are you French? Are you Spanish? Are you Ukrainian? Are you Dutch? Right? The list goes on. And it's having that conversation of what once your ancestors came here, did they inherit things like hand-me-down farmland after indigenous people were removed from their homelands to provide room for them, right? And I can't speak for the States, but I would imagine it'd be the same. When Sir John A. Macdonald established the RCMP to come and survey and control indigenous people while they were moving us onto reservations, you know, like policing, that's when the policing era had begun. Continuum of it, the relationship that we still have with the RCMP today, they're still surveying people. If I have to, you know, speak out against something that's actively look at what's happening in so-called British Columbia and Wet'suwet'en, where people are literally standing in their unceded territory. They're fighting to protect the land out there, right? A good friend of mine, Logan Stats, has been out there since the jump, right? JOC, another hip-hop artist, he's been out there since the jump, right? Media is going to go and cover what's actually happening there. And it's the ongoing settler violence towards indigenous people. And this ties into this doctrine that we're talking about, right? Yeah. Sorry, that's a lot to respond to, man. You know.
No. I mean,
How do you?
These are the type of conversations we have on this.
Ultimately, Zero, how do you feel about the Pope going to Canada and wearing all that bullshit on his fucking head?
You know,
like,
I had to take like a couple steps back and not react, not go, oh, this is bullshit, and you know, because that's the normal reaction, right? For me, I just kind of looked at it and I went, nothing that those Jesuits do, they just do. You know what I mean? They don't do it just because. They do it because they're making a statement. They're trying to manipulate in some way, but more along the lines of making a statement. Because not only did he put on that headdress, I also saw another video of him putting on like one from like Brazil or something.
Yes, he's going around.
Yeah, he's putting on indigenous headdresses, right? So there's a symbolism behind that, right? And then he also mentioned a certain Jesuit bishop. When he put one on, he mentioned a certain name. If you look at the video, he'll mention a name. I'm interested to know what bishop that was and what he did and what crimes he committed against indigenous people. Because what they're saying is that, look, we rule you guys. Look, I'll put your shit on, take it off. Like it's a piece of trash. Your shit don't mean nothing. That's the way I felt. Like we rule everybody. Look, right? But here's that's their arrogant version of life, right? And I always go back to Mesoamerican times because I feel like that was the renaissance of brilliance from indigenous cultures, right? Where they were scientific and they were astrological and they were very intelligent beings, right? That figured out calculations and how things worked with the sun and how energies work and what foods and the sun, how they react to each other. They were very scientific. They were brilliant. They were not arrogant, in my opinion, right? I never lived there. I don't live there now. You know, I'm just trying to understand how people come up with these cities that they just kind of go, oh, well, they're aligned to the solar system, like before telescopes. And they make it seem like it's an easy thing to do. But what kind of energy, what kind of wisdom, what kind of humility, to make that mechanism work, right? And what I'm trying to get at is that wisdom could not be kept in one person or one group. It had to be shared, right? That's how we got large societies, big temples aligned with whatever's, and the people had to follow it. Because the people that were studying the sun were teaching everyone about the sun. That wasn't a secret. That's the way the Jesuits roll. They roll in nothing but secrets. Yet they'll put the symbol of the sun on their staff. They'll put the symbol of the sun on the wall of the church and not tell anybody that it represents the sun. And what those lines mean and what solstice and equinox and how we should prepare to follow these energies of the sun, they keep that in secret. So when I see a pope put on a headdress and claim he rules everything, I look at maybe somebody who has dementia because they really don't understand the sun and how it works and how energy just starts to permeate, just like it hits the land and it starts to change spring into summer, summer into fall, fall into winter.
But they're making everyone seem like he went out there to apologize to the indigenous community for what they did for the
apologize? Like, you don't apologize by going, oh, I'm sorry. Like, it's like me going, I just went to your house, Armando. I stole your car. I raped your girl. I killed your daughter. And I'm sorry. Now get the fuck out of my house still.
Yep.
That's what the fuck is I'm sorry. It doesn't mean shit unless you're going, oh, dude, I couldn't call the ambulance. I'm giving your house back. This was an accident.
That's what they're telling us over here in the U.S. Like, is that the same narrative they're running with over there, Cody?
They're not giving anything back, right, Cody?
They're trying, like, and I'm gonna make this clear as day. That, proposed apology, it would not have happened unless residential school survivors initiated going to Rome to call on the Pope to do that. I'm not even thinking it, no second thoughts. He wasn't going to be like, oh, well, you know what? On today's agenda, I got to go over to so-called Canada and I got to make an apology. He got called out, right? The church got called out. The Vatican got called out. That initiated him to come over here in the first place, right? So for him to come here and to be gifted that headdress, there's been a lot of controversy, right? Some people want to say, "Oh, yeah."
Wait a minute, Cody. Let's get this in perspective, though. Armando, you're bringing up a good point. So if I said, "All right, I'm gonna steal your house, Armando. I'm gonna take all your money. I'm gonna rape your wife. I'm gonna kill your daughter, and then you're gonna give me your finest suit and put it on me and say, so I could go, I'm sorry, bro. Still, get the fuck out of my house. That's what it is. What the fuck is I'm sorry?
That's what I'm
Unless
saying.
you're going, oh, wow, we're really sorry. We're going to give you all your land back and give you all your religious rights back and then just leave you the fuck alone. We fucked up big time. You know? That's that is going to result in.
I saw a headline from MSNBC. It's the official apology.
But it's
what?
That's like that's so what? I mean, liars don't apologize. Liars don't apologize. Thieves don't apologize. Murderers don't apologize. Rapists don't apologize.
Apology means nothing without action.
It doesn't mean anything unless it comes with like, hey man, I'm sorry. Here are all your treaties. All the treaties that we fucked up. Here you go. You know the residential school that's empty and you guys can have that. Nothing happened. Nothing happened other than some actor that some people's calling a pope is going, hey, let's go tell those guys we're sorry.
But Cody's right. They must have went out there and demanded it.
They did. And like it's paying attention to like the series of events that happened. And they did. They went to Rome, right? I think it was like the Asians that initiated it. And then a group of survivors went over there and they initiated that. All right. And then the Pope came over. Right. Then he was gifted this headdress, sacred item, right? And there's teachings behind that, depending on, what territory you're from and all that, right? But a lot of people were saying it was, but in my head, it sounded a little bit awkward because let's think about a situation, right? Figuratively speaking, if somebody was to be used by somebody, right? Let's say somebody experienced abuse from somebody, sexual abuse, right? That the Pope neglected to even apologize for, something that was like huge in residential schools, right? It was rampant. But somebody who has been on the receiving end of that, right? Their abuser is now here, right? And they're saying sorry, and you gift them. That doesn't make sense, right? And that comes into what you were saying, right, Zero? Like why am I gonna gift this abuser? Right?
Yes.
And then say thank you? No, you got way more to do. You have to rescind that doctrine of discovery. You got to erase the foundational components, still have so-called control over sovereign indigenous nations that are still here, right? Because we're on the receiving end of incarceration, the over representation of indigenous children in the child welfare system, the amount of missing and murdered indigenous women, spirit folks. This all ties in to settler and colonial violence that stems from things like the doctrine, right? And that's why people need to really start looking into this, like really dissecting it, like we're talking about it. We're going right into it, and I've been waiting to talk about this because I think about it every single day from the moment that I wake up to the moment that I go to bed. This Pope, coming over here and making a proposed apology, I saw it for what it was from the jump, taking the week to process and not be reactive to it. He needs to be called out and be called in to take some concrete action. Otherwise, it's just lip service. And we've heard it time and time again. Oh, you know what? We're going to do this, but then they go and they do the opposite. Or they try to sweep it under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. Here, we're going to throw money at it. It's going to make everything better. No. Keep talking about the healing narrative. All right, we need to help indigenous people heal. We've been doing the work. All right, I volunteer every Friday night with a youth group here in Ottawa, and it's to show up for those kids to help us heal. Right, we did that. We didn't need any settlers to help us with that. We showed up for ourselves. Right, we've been doing the healing work. We need to start talking about the justice narrative. All right, where are the reparations? Where's the justice for these indigenous children that are being found, that have been killed? All right, that were raped, that were killed, that were found at these former institutions that were church ran and run by the government of Canada. That's the wavelength that I'm on, friends. Right?
Yeah. And
But I do think it's weird how Zero he's down in Southern America now. Like that was bizarre.
it's just it's they do things in symbols. Like they're just showing the world, look, we rule everything, we rule everyone. That's their mentality. Now they don't though. Here's the problem, in my opinion, right? Because we try to fight them with paperwork that they invented. We're never going to win that fight. We're never going to win the fight of justice because justice was created by them, right? So why are we asking for it? We shouldn't be asking for anything from them. You know what we should be doing? We should be creating our own, and this is just my opinion, and this is what I do, okay? And I speak sovereignly for myself. And I try to teach this, and I put little seeds in anybody who's around me, my children, my wife, my community, whatever, right? Is to be as sovereign as possible for yourself, right? And when you make that decision to be sovereign, then every decision you make affects your reality, right? So if I go, well, I want to still drink, well, that's going to affect the community, my children. It's going to affect everyone, right? But I made a sovereign decision to do certain things, right? I smoke cannabis, but I don't drink, right? So that's my sovereign decision. That works for me. It may not work for 40 other people, right? But you have to have a sovereign decision. Now, when you start making those sovereign decisions, you make a sovereign connection with the land, with the water, with the fire, with the sky. Your own connection. It's not based on a book, an institution, a leader, because we're all great mysteries. But they distract us so much with paperwork and doctrines and oppression and fear and movies and ecstasy and sex and everything's there.
Sports,
number one, damn. But when we create these sovereign understandings, then all the distractions disappear, in my opinion. That's true revolution, because you're not asking for the freedom from their paperwork. We are now freeing you. Here, sign this. Right? What happened the last time we signed some shit? Right? Here, sign this. Okay. Fuck. They're not going to follow it. You know what I mean? Like,
interesting you say that. Like
but when,
you know, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but when we create that connection, I mean deep connection. I mean, you got to go into a hike by yourself. You know, you got to go to a beach walk by yourself and find the most secluded beach you can find. And you connect. They can't take that from you. They cannot take that from you. They're trying to make things all, look at the fancy this and the fancy that, and look how easy it is. You don't even have to drive anymore. The car will take you where it's going to take you, and blah, blah, blah. And look at money's in the phone now. Right? Those are all distractions to reality. You, my friend, are connected to reality because you're connecting to your language. You're connected to your people. You're connected to the struggle. And you're using art. And they used to laugh at us for that. Look at how funny they paint themselves, right?
And for everyone watching live and listening to Spotify or watching us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever, make sure you guys check out his new album. It's called The Passage, right? Passage?
Passage, yeah. And Miigwech
Yeah, man.
too, eh?
Yeah. What will people hear as soon as they put on that record, Cody?
As soon as you start playing it, you're gonna hear, part of the first apology from Stephen Harper, right? And that's going back to I think it was 2005 when he initially apologized for the mistreatment in Canadian residential schools. So it's like they've tried to continue to sugarcoat this throughout the years, by putting these forward. And I put that there specifically, kicking off this album and writing that record, after speaking to him before he passed away, and hearing about his experiences at the St. Peter Claver's Indian Residential School for Boys, Indian Residential Schools, um, and the helplessness that he felt, trying to run away from this institution twice, but being brought back both times, right? Like, this project is very much about navigating intergenerational trauma. It's very much about my truth. It's very much about what I've been witness to. And again, coming back to not being silent about it. That's the first thing that they're going to hear when people start playing that record. And I want people to reflect on it, right? Because we still live with it today, right? We still live with it today. But I'm very much a part of the generation that is doing the work to try and help with taking care of our communities.
I love that you brought up intergenerational trauma, because that's the trauma that you were inherited by just being born, right? And the intergenerational trauma comes in normality of trauma, right? We go, oh, well, my dad grew up this way. My mom grew up that way too. Everybody's dad left. That's, to me, is like passing on trauma, right? Like, oh, it's a normal thing, right? You were born with it. But we're not born with it. Hell no. People like the Pope, these hypocrites, came and took everything. And it's okay. They had to. Because we were going to show them how strong we were. We were going to show them that we can still survive. And you can't rip us away from the sun. You can't. You can keep all the books you want hidden in that library or wherever, or in institutions or universities. They can keep all that. Like I said, go for that deep walk into the forest by yourself. Right? Go to that deep walk by the ocean by yourself. And watch it talk to you. Watch it tell you how great and brilliant you are. We are. Those who believe in truth and not harming children and not harming the earth that gives us life and everything we need. That's the army we're a part of. And it's not even an army. It's being connected on a level that's sovereign. They taught us that. The elders taught us that. They put us on the mountain for what? What do you think they put us on the mountain for by ourselves? With no food and no water? Why? To connect. That's why. And we can still do that. No matter what traumatic experience we live with, they cannot take that away from us. Our grandfathers putting us in front of the mirror going, look, see everything here? See the moon, you see those stars, you see the deer, you see the plants, you see the birds. All of that lives inside of you. I'm going to leave you here so you can figure that out. I believe that's what happened.
11 tracks. Passage. Just simply type that in on Google. Cody Coyote. Type it in on YouTube. It's a solid project. It's a solid project.
Absolutely.
And
Amen.
I recommend everyone to listen to it. The production's dope as hell too.
Look up his videos. What videos you got out?
Oh,
how many videos you got out?
So far, I got the Boy. For relative to Passage, the Boy. Working on one with PJ Vegas and Pookie G right now for the song Dirty.
Oh, PJ Vegas. I know that dude. He's cool.
Yeah, that's my brother right there, man. I do want to just say it like Miigwech again, Zero. The people that are watching this and that are listening, like, they need to understand like how insightful, right? Like I want to honor you by saying Miigwech, for that, because that's part of decolonizing and reconnecting, revitalizing, reclaiming. And we need to again go out to the land, right? This anxiety, like things like anxiety that you get in the city and the environments, right? Where there's so much going on, you have peace, right? You put away your phone, put away this device that has you trapped, and you go out to the land, and everything else makes sense after that, right? I did a lot of that when I was working on this project, friend. You know,
Yeah, I could tell.
I had to disconnect. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I could tell. It's just you have to test the boundaries of what educated people are telling you, right? Because we get indoctrinated with education, right? But education doesn't teach you shit. Teaching you shit is by going up in a mountain and spraining your ankle and figuring out how to get back down. That teaches you something, right?
Word.
Going into the mountain and then sitting there and just quietly listening how it tells you that you guys are one, right? Without no words. That's what we do, man. And man, I'm glad to meet you. I'm glad you were able to come on the
100%.
podcast and have a great conversation. You know, we're unifying all of our Turtle Island. You know, and some people are displaced so far back, like myself, 200 years. You know, I can't tell you stories about anything. I can't tell you a word that I come from, but I do know one thing: that my grandfather's medicine still lives inside me. I'm talking about that old grandfather. He's in me. I know it.
I feel that.
So look, before we end this episode, I want to thank Cody Coyote again for jumping on our LA Natives podcast, man. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of medicine for people who are going to tune in tomorrow on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify.
Absolutely.
Always remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like that video, comment, share the video, visit our website, buy a t-shirt, buy a hoodie, support the podcast. There's way more work to be done. And most importantly, this Sunday, August 7th, between 12 and 6, we got plant-based Aslan, right,
Absolutely.
Zero?
Yes, it's a monthly event that we put together. We're trying to teach people about plant-based foods, you know, and a plant-based lifestyle, just to be more in control of our diet versus just eating whatever corporations provide for us. You know, we got to be as autonomous as possible and go back to foods that were here prior to the conquest.
And guys, this is on, you know, on the legendary historical Whittier Boulevard in East Los Angeles, like literally right there by the sign.
Yes, absolutely. 2 blocks away from.
A lot of vendors are going to be there this week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be popping, guys.
It's going to be cool. We're going to have some cool new food vendors, plant-based food vendors. I think one of them's a mushroom. He does things with mushrooms. And then the other one is, like, I think vegan ceviche. And, you know, we're just going to have a bunch of people there. It's really a vibe,
And DJ Margarita. Yeah, that's going to be dope. Yeah.
She's going to be there, and she's our, you know, resident DJ. Shout out to Jen. And, yeah, man, it's really a vibe of people, you know, just you know, gathering once a month, you know, going over, checking in on each other, you know, buying cool gear that revolves around indigenous, you know, themes, right? And holistic remedies as well, like oils and massages. And, you know, we sell some, there's one of the vendors sells Aztec pottery. So, like, you know, deities in clay. So it's a cool little vibe. We have it once a month. You know, it's growing every month. So yeah, this Sunday,
if you guys want to know more info, just follow the Instagram page at Malinani Superfoods. Go to LA Natives Podcast .com. The poster, the flyers, right up there.
Perfect.
The new website, the Malinani Superfoods, it's almost up, like 80%.
Nice.
80% done. We're just going to start moving forward and apply the online ordering system. We need people to order online.
Yeah.
And, you know, start getting their stuff delivered.
Yeah.
Right?
That'd be cool. That'd be super cool. You know, creating this community with plant-based Aslan.
And again, dude, shout out to Immortal Technique for stopping by Malinani Superfoods. That was dope, Zero.
Yeah, man. And he, you know, when I hit him up about it, it was very cool. Very, you know, willing. Like, hey, I'll shoot you there. Hey, man, I'll come tomorrow. Like, damn.
Bro,
cool.
He liked the product.
Yeah.
He even, you know, shouted it out on Instagram that he felt better.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
And trust me, guys, if you guys take these powders, take the aguas, buy anything from Malinani Superfoods, dude, you'll just naturally feel better.
Yeah. Well, it's done with, the safest way we know how to provide this, plant-based option, like to fast food or something quick.
So anyone listening, anyone tuning in today or tomorrow, make sure you guys plan that trip. August 7th, right there in East Los Angeles, 4528 Whittier Boulevard, LA, California, 90032.
Yes, 22 900
90032.
32. No,
Yes,
it's
is that-
22.
Oh, it's 22?
Yeah,
Well,
they messed
there,
up.
there it is. The flyers are wicked, though, dude.
Oh, because that's Polaris, man. Polaris is pretty big on social media.
Okay.
And so he has this certain style to his art, and it's all revolving around indigenous, sometimes eroticism, indigenous eroticism. So he puts them like, people in sexual positions in front of pyramids. And that's not all the things he's done, but he's very progressive in that way.
So, Cody, any shout outs before we go and anything you want to say to our indigenous hip hop community, brother?
Well, I just want to say miigwech. Thank you to both of you for having an incredible conversation. Honestly, so refreshing to just be able to connect it, in a good way with like-minded individuals. One thing I want to request, maybe, you both could do it, and as well as folks that are tapping in. I have some calls to action with this new release with Passage. If people are looking for them, you can find it on my website, codycoyotemusic.com/music. I had them all listed there. A big part in this album is mobilizing. I didn't want it to just be a music. I wanted it to be a call to action for people to mobilize. And again, like we're talking about that allyship that's here, is working together, away with Tata, like all together we support each other, right? That'd be the only thing. And I want to say shout out, to both you again, been fantastic. Big up to the podcast for having me here. I can't wait till this episode is released for folks to check out.
Yeah, well, it'll be up tonight, right?
And we are out of LA, right, Cody? How often are you in LA?
Let's just say I want to get out there again. A few years, it's been long overdue. Last time I was out there, I was performing as a part of Grand Performances, and
oh no way, they brought you out here.
Yeah,
That's
they showed
cool.
me mad love. It was crazy, crazy love.
Grand Performances is cool. Bro, if you get to play Grand Performances, that's fucking huge.
What is that?
Right?
It's a thing they do in the summer in downtown LA.
Yeah.
And they have like this like really big stage, and they every week or maybe every month, I want to say every week in the summer, they invite a group to come and play. And a lot of like Quito Soul's played, fucking Buya Pongo's played. A lot of big groups from Los Angeles have played. But if you got to come out and play, that's great, bro. Congratulations. That's a good show.
Oh, miigwech, and like I will say one thing. I want to go back to Echo Park and like be in that swan in the middle of that water basin.
Is it open
there? That was like so cool.
They open it.
Open now? They
closed it and just kick out all the homeless people, right?
Dude, when the pandemic, they closed Echo Park. Like, it was gone. It was like they fenced it up. Nobody could go in there. Yeah, but it's open, I think, again now.
I felt at home because I saw the geese there, So
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's the only place you'll find. No, you can find them at Lake and all these couple other ponds. But yeah, man, thanks for coming through, bro. I appreciate your music. I appreciate your intention. I know we'll be in touch. Armando and I are not only doing this podcast to, expose individuals like yourself that are not from Los Angeles. We kind of focus our attention to that. But I know that we have a lot of productions come up in mind, and your music is valid, bro, and keep doing what you're doing.
Well, miigwech, and how else can I say it? Skoda, let's do this, right? Let's get it going. Let's mobilize together. And,
absolutely.
I'm just so that we got to connect, brothers. Thank you.
Cool. Right on, brother.
So yeah, man, we had the Immortal Technique show. That was a blast. Thanks to everyone that was shouting you out, Zero. A lot of fools were like, just shouting you out how dope you were.
I got a lot of cool fans from that.
Right. And then of course we had the Pope going in Canada wearing the regalia. That was disgusting.
That was just,
you know what I'm saying?
That was
just man.
It was pointless.
It was a slap in the fucking face, right?
It was like pointless. Like, how do you?
It was good comedy, right?
Like when you abuse children, traffic humans, steal their land, And then just get, I'm sorry, bros. Sorry. Like,
Then jump on the
on.
plane and then go to Southern America.
Yeah, and then go try to pull that fast one over there. You know what I mean? It's like, you know.
Oh,
look,
well, since we're out, might as well just go to Southern America and apologize to them too.
I mean, just stop being so violent, you know, and hiding behind it and being so wicked. But you know what? Be who you are. You know, no one in any tribe has asked for the wolves to be removed from the wild, right? We never, as indigenous people, we didn't go, hey, let's remove all the wolves because they suck. You know, it's like, hey, you got to be aware of wolves. And that's what they are.
So any last words, Zero?
Yeah, just it's cool to be back on. Thank you, Cody, for being on and joining with us. Thank you, the chat, everybody. I could see everybody, you know, typing away and you know, giving us their thoughts.
We're active right now, Zero. It always seems like, you know, when we're closing out, we get the most viewers.
Yeah, well,
The
it's
chat
later on.
was lit.
It's later on in the podcast, but you know that's what I got to remind the audience that this podcast is so that you could type away on that chat, man, and get your point across to people who are on the chat. People who I'm sure there are people who are viewing.
Next
YouTube
week, we're gonna allow people to call in, bro. We're gonna have a Google Voice number. I just want to repeat that. We
That'd
will
be
have
fire.
our Google Voice
That'd be
number, and
cool.
we're gonna have our fans, you know, call
Yeah.
in, ask a couple questions to these artists, to these influencers, to these
Absolutely.
activists, to these people who actually have voices
Yeah,
in the community.
That sounds like fun if we could get that kind of interaction. But you know, just stay wise out there. You know, things are they like to move slowly, right? Anybody who's trying to trap somebody or something, they don't like to make a bunch of ruckus trying to do it. And why I'm saying that is that, you know, when you start seeing governors going, we're going to go back into lockdown, we have to be, as a community, really questioning someone being able to tell us to stay indoors. And I'm not trying to be controversial or any of that bullshit, but enough's enough, man. Like, we have to be able to intelligently move forward in this time and reality, you know? And we have to be sovereign when we're doing that. And I don't mean allegiance to a group or a doctrine or a book, but more along to yourself. Make that commitment to yourself, right? And let's start to begin those long walks in the forest by ourselves so we can understand ourselves, right? And it doesn't have to be a long walk in the forest. It could be at the beach. It could be at the park. Just find your moment with nature, because that's going to be our greatest ally, is nature, right? Because it sees and feels everything. It's alive. Our planet is alive. And our ancestors understood that. That's why we never tampered with it. And they're tampering. They're tampering big time. So stay strong, love each other, create those communities, find confidence in yourself, build that connection with the earth and yourself. And we'll see you next Wednesday. La sukumatli umeteo tonansin tonatu.